The Scuba Diver Magazine podcast is sponsored by Scuba Pro, who are celebrating their 60th year of being an iconic scuba brand, and Scuba Pro has a few offers that I'm going to break down later on in this podcast. Hi, all of you wonderful scuba divers out there. Welcome to the Scuba Diver Magazine podcast, where I break down some of the interesting scuba diving news stories that have piqued my interest over the previous week and catch you guys and girls up with just the underwater world. This week, the big news story is a new atomic aquatics regulator. It's quite rare that they release a new regulator. There's also a nasty parasite that's spreading into the Red Sea that's affecting some sea urchins, and it's very reminiscent of something that happened in the Caribbean a few years back. There's an incredibly rare shark spotting in British Columbia, and also the Midlands Diving Chamber has made a huge donation to the Shark Bite Back charity. So yeah, let's take a look at this new regulator. They've been teasing it for a few weeks now, which seems to be the done thing nowadays with regulator manufacturers. You get a very dark snapshot of one angle of it, and they say, "Oh, something's coming," but they don't actually show what it is. And yeah, it's the new TFX, which stands for the titanium front exhaust, I believe. And yeah, it's very typically atomic aquatics. So the first stage is made from a single piece of titanium, incredibly lightweight, and one of the really nerdy things about the first stage is that the A-clamp version, they have a new 4X. The version of the A-clamp fitting, and it's named 4X because it takes 4 times fewer rotations to actually do it up, which is kind of cool. If you use A-clamp fittings, you'll know you hook it over and you're gonna tighten it up, and with the 4X, I don't know how they've done it. They've adjusted the pitch or something of the screw thread, but basically you only have to rotate it a couple of times and it does up. Anyway, the main difference of the TFX is the second stage design. If you've seen the Scuba Pro D420 second stage, it's quite similar in design to that, in that you have a dropped diaphragm. It's not a traditional second stage design where you've got this big circle right in front of your mouth. It's dropped down and it's angled downwards as well, and this has quite a few benefits, and this is where when divers get stuck in our ways, because scuba divers don't like change, it does limit us as far as like performance of second stage designs. So the traditional second stage design, if you imagine a second stage, that's whatever you picture in your mind, that's the traditional design. It's okay, it does the job clearly because hundreds of thousands of divers use it, but it can be improved upon. And this is what Atomic Aquatics have done by lowering the diaphragm and also mounting the exhaust valve on the front. It improves performance and it makes it much more of a natural breathe. So by lowering the inhalation diaphragm, it means that it's a much more natural breathe, and this is what a lot of people say about the Scuba Pro D420, which is a similar design, is that you have a reduced work of breathing, so that inhalation is much more natural. But with the exhaust valve on the front, instead of on the back side, almost against the front of your chin, it again further reduces your work of breathing in all different orientations. So it's basically when your exhaust valve is down in like the lower quadrant, it kind of makes sense as a drainage point, because if there's any water inside of your second stage, then it drains out of there. But because it's lower than your mouth, every time you exhale, you effectively have to push air downwards for it then to escape. Now, granted, it's only like half an inch or something, if that, so it's not a lot, but it's still something. Whereas with this design, it starts a lot higher and it finishes lower, and because it's angled as well, if you're looking upwards, it's a lot easier to breathe from. If you're looking downwards, if you're looking straight on, it's a clever design basically. And yeah, it is typical Atomic Aquatics. Very clever detailings in it. They're using titanium throughout, so it's lightweight, it's corrosion resistant. It also has their I forget what they call it, but it's a auto. I want to say ASD, the auto seal device, something like that. But it protects the sealing surface inside of the second stage. So when you're storing your regulator, the sealing surface is basically always being pushed upon. And one of the problems with second stages is that if they're stored for a long period of time, they can start to bed in and creep. So then you basically need to take it in for a service and then and replace that seal. But with the TFX and quite a few atomic regulators themselves, the sealing surface retracts when it's depressurized, so it's not bedding in, and that's why the TFX has a 3-year or a 300 dive service interval. So you only have to get it serviced once every 3 years, which is pretty cool. So let's have a quick read. The Ultimate Connoisseur's Natural Breathing Regulator. Atomic Aquatics engineers reimagined the rather unconventional front exhaust regulator design to create the most natural and effortless breathing regulator for all diving attitudes or positions. Traditional rear exhaust regulators have more breathing resistance in certain dive positions, like looking up. The TFX gives the divers enhanced and sophisticated air delivery with dramatically reduced inhalation effort compared to all other regulators on the market. So yeah, it does look a little bit different, but I think we need to get out of this mindset of, oh, it looks kind of weird. No, I'll just automatically dismiss it. Actually, if it's a better breathe, then yes, you should definitely consider it. So the Atomic engineers deconstructed every component of the previous front exhaust regulator designs to reevaluate and reimagine function and performance. The genesis of the unique Atomic TFX design lies in its positioning the exhaust valve in the center of the inhalation diaphragm and mounting both in the front of the regulator, which provides enhanced breathing performance and superior dryness not possible with a conventional design. So yeah, just very clever, and I'm quite excited to test this one out as soon as I get a sample to see how it breathes. The next news story, so this is coming out of the Red Sea, or at least towards the Red Sea, and there's an alarming parasitic killer that reduces black sea urchins into skeletons within 2 days, and it's spreading from the Mediterranean through the Suez Canal downwards to the Red Sea, and it's wiping out urchin populations in the Gulf of Aqaba and threatening a knock-on effect in the Red Sea coral reefs further south. So this is coming from scientists at Tel Aviv University in Israel. They've been investigating this epidemic, which they say has killed all of the black sea urchins in the Gulf in a matter of months. This eradication is important to pay attention to, because sea urchins and this species in particular, the black sea urchins, the little spiky ball guys, are considered essential for the healthy functioning of coral reefs. And this parasite is believed to be the same, or at least very similar to the one from the 1980s, which almost eradicated the Caribbean sea urchin population, which caused what scientists say was irreversible damage to its coral reefs. And last year, the disease, or the parasite, broke out again in the Caribbean, wiping out surviving urchin populations. And this killer has only recently been identified, I think it was back in April, as a ciliate. And yeah, they basically, or the scientists say that after extensive urchin deaths have been noted in the waters of Greece and Turkey, it's now being reported in other countries further south, apart from Israel, including Jordan, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. And the epidemic is spreading all the way down south. And yeah, this is getting a lot of scientists really worried because, I mean, what else can go wrong for coral reefs? Now we have these sea urchins, which the sea urchins, they basically eat the algae, and they prevent the algae from building up too much on corals and like suffocating them. So if we don't have these like cleaning sea urchins, yeah, that's another enemy for coral reefs. And yeah, this parasite is nuts. It renders the sea urchins defenseless. So within like 2 days, it just kills them, or at least it's the parasite and then the fish in the area, because they realize that the sea urchin is defenseless. Then the local fish, they kill the sea urchins. So yeah, just terrible news, and something that we're going to be like paying attention to, because yeah, what else could go wrong for coral reefs around the world? So, as I mentioned at the start, this podcast is sponsored by the scuba diving giant Scuba Pro, who have been making great scuba diving equipment since 1963. And Scuba Pro makes everything from masks and snorkels and fins to wetsuits, dry suits, dive computers. They have a beautiful range of regulators as well, and they have a great range of products that scuba divers love because if you take their fins, for example, they still make their jet fins, which are a design from the 1960s, but divers still love them because they simply got it right the first time. The only upgrade that the jet fins have ever had over the years is to add spring heel straps. And Scuba Pro also makes some of the most cutting edge fins today, from their Sea Wing Nova and Supernova fins. So Scuba Pro covers the entire range of diving equipment, from their heritage equipment to modern technology. And right now Scuba Pro has a pair of offers at participating dealers. The first one is a free Octo offer. If you buy a Scuba Pro S620 Ti or the D420 with either a Mark 19 Evo or the Mark 25 Evo first stage, you're going to get yourself a S270 Octo for free, which is a great way to start building a regulator set and start saving yourself some money. The D420 may look a little bit different to some other second stages, but it breathes beautifully. The S620 is a combination of the best features of other Scuba Pro second stages in a great all-rounder of a second stage. The free Octo offer also extends to their S600 with a Mark 25 or a Mark 17 Evo first stage, which is one of their most popular regulators. Again, a very strong all-rounder. That and the G260 or the new G260 Carbon Black Tech with either a Mark 25 or a Mark 19 Evo first stage, you'll get yourself a free R105 Octo. Now, I know that was a lot of numbers that I just threw at you, but if you visit your local Scuba Pro dealer, there's a dealer locator on the Scuba Pro website where you can find your nearest, and they can help you find the right regulator for you. The second offer is a dry suit promotion, which is a great way to save some money again, or get a fancier dry suit combination in your budget. If you buy a neoprene Everdry 4 or an Exo dry suit, you can get a free K2 light undersuit set or a K2 medium thickness undersuit for £99, which has a suggested retail price of £298, so you're saving yourself some money. Or if you prefer a trilaminate dry suit, if you buy the Evertech breathable or the definition dry, you will get the K2 extreme undersuit for free, which is a great way to stay warmer in the water. Personally, I tend to wear my dry suit year round here in the UK, so a dry suit is a great investment. Both of these offers are running until the end of July in certain regions and participating dealers, so do ask them first before you turn up demanding for free Scuba Pro equipment. And moving on to some slightly more optimistic or happier news. So, this is 4 Canadian scuba divers who were heading out on their second dive of the day in a Pacific Ocean inlet in British Columbia. They were looking for a shipwreck. They were going to go diving on it. The group of 4 comprised of a dive master, Matteo Endrizzi, a environmental technologist. What's an environmental technologist? Garrett Clement is a environmental technologist. Danton West and Connor McTavish, who, whilst they were at around 20 meters, signaled to the rest of the group, this was Connor, that he'd seen a shark, or threw out the shark hand signal. And because he was the least experienced diver in the group, his hand signal was kind of dismissed by the other divers, of kind of like, well, no, of course you didn't see a shark. He was mistaken. He threw out the wrong hand signal. He got a little bit excited, but okay, whatever. Well done, Connor. They continued on with the dive. 10 minutes passed, and the divers were on the side of the shipwreck around 25 meters down when West's dive light caught the shark on the seabed below, and it was a juvenile blunt-nosed 6-gill shark. Which is incredibly rare to see anywhere, let alone on a 25-meter dive in a Pacific Ocean inlet around a shipwreck. And yeah, the divers suddenly go, you know what? There is a shark. And then the more you look into it, you go, actually, this is an incredibly rare shark. So there's lots of video footage. You can find it on their YouTube channel. I'll see if I can pop a link in the description under this video. The video's already got about 6,500 views, and sharks seem to be attracted to their video lights and their dive lights, which kind of makes sense. And yeah, I think it's recorded on at least 2 videos. I've seen 2 different angles of it, and yeah, it kind of hangs about for a little bit, and yeah, it's a rather mysterious species. We don't see too many 6-gill sharks sort of in these shallow waters, so it's probably just this juvenile just exploring, going somewhere a little bit different, rebelling against his parents or something. But yeah, it's pretty cool, and if it's a regular occurrence, that might sort of make it quite a popular dive site. Mainly because these sharks, they normally found around like 2.5 kilometers underwater. They're deep shark species. They only really venture up to shallower waters at like night time to do a bit of hunting when it's a bit cooler up there. So yeah, incredibly rare. But sticking with sharks, the hyperbaric and dive medical experts Midlands Diver Chamber, or Diving Chamber, sorry, the MDC, who actually did my my diver medical this year, have underpinned their long-term support of the Bite Back Shark and Marine Conservation Charity with a one-off donation of £20,000 as the Rugby-based diving doctors wind down the charitable side of its operation. So the donation represents the single largest financial contribution made to Bite Back, delivering a huge boost to its campaigns to end the UK trade in shark products. Sally Cartwright, the spokesperson for MDC, said, "For years we've admired and supported the groundbreaking work that Bite Back is doing to save, protect and celebrate sharks. It's a genuine pleasure to help ensure it stays at the forefront of shark conservation in the UK." Midland Diving Chamber first supported the charity at the inaugural Bite Back at Cancer event in 2007, and then annually for the next 6 years. It even hosted its own James Bond-themed party on the Thames to fundraise for the marine NGO. And Graham Buckingham, the campaign director for Bite Back, said, "We can't thank MDC enough for its continued support and now for this massive contribution to our pioneering shark conservation campaigns. It makes us very proud that the country's premier diving medical experts have chosen to back our campaigns that extend from parliaments to primary schools. This financial windfall will allow us to continue to lead the shark conservation agenda in the United Kingdom and deliver measurable shark conservation breakthroughs to keep the oceans healthy." the Bite Back's No Fin to Declare campaign in the to end the UK's import and export of shark fins is now just months away from achieving royal assent into law. And earlier this month, it launched a free 56-page teaching resource for Key Stage 2 and 3 students as well on the importance of sharks and the threats that they face. MDC is based at St Cross Hospital in Rugby and operates a hyperbaric decompression chamber. It's a huge thing. I couldn't get any footage last time I was there because there were people in there, and obviously people's medical records and stuff and privacy laws are. I couldn't take pictures whilst I was there, but I got to have a brief look around, which is pretty cool. And yeah, that's when I was doing my my diver medical, just to make sure I was fit and healthy to be a professional scuba diver. You got to make sure that that everything's working inside, and yeah, they do treat divers with decompression illness to get together with other hyperbaric oxygen therapies. So yeah, £20,000 donation, incredible. And that's about it for news stories this week. It's been a relatively quiet week. One thing that I did notice is that if you listen to the podcast on YouTube, last Sunday's podcast for some reason didn't go live. I checked it on like the Monday or the Tuesday, and it just came up as drafts. So not really sure what happened there. I do apologise. The podcast always goes out on all sorts of different like podcast channels from Spotify and Apple, iTunes podcast, whatever they call it. But yeah, if you do follow it on YouTube, I apologized for last week. I don't really know what happens. It definitely got uploaded, but maybe I didn't hit save when I was scheduling it, so it didn't go live. Other things that I've been working on, catching up on sort of Ask Mark questions. I think I've finally caught up after my 2 weeks away. I've done a top 10 video on the worst scuba diving habits that I see, things that kind of need to stop. I also had a few sample products arrive, a few from SEAC, a few masks and regulators, which have already, I think the videos have already gone live, so you can see them. I also got my hands on a Nortec cylinder valve. I've done parts of the video for that, but if there's anything that you want to know, if you want to ask any questions about the valve, or Nortec in general that you want me to include in the videos, yeah, just ask me down below. If you use the Ask Mark hashtag, I'll definitely see it and do my best to include it in the video. That's quite a nice little thing. I remember the first time I saw Nortec valves. I was still working at Simply Scuba, and it was years and years ago, and I just came across an image. It was of their, I think they call it the Dark Line twin valves, and you're just like, ooh, wow, that's a really fancy cylinder valve. And yeah, I've always like sort of coveted them. I've spoken with Andy Torbert about them as well. He uses them on some of his cylinders, and yeah, as far as cylinder valves go, it's kind of a nerdy scuba diving thing to nerd out on cylinder valves, but actually, yeah, really, really nice once you actually get your hands on one and you get to just rotate that cylinder handle. Anyway, yeah, that's what I've been working on. Some of the questions that I've been answering, yeah, a strange smell after a cylinder test. Someone said they had a kind of medicinal smell or taste to their air after their cylinder had to go in for some surface rust, or at least it went in for test. They found it had surface rust on the inside, then they had to treat it. So yeah, any kind of taste or smell or anything weird is just an automatic rejection. Just no, because it could be anything. Chances are, because it was surface rust, I think they used phosphoric acid like diluted, obviously, to react with the surface rust. If it is just surface rust, then you can do it chemically. You don't have to physically remove it, and it might just be that they didn't flush it out as thoroughly as they could. It could be that. It could also be when they were filling the cylinder, there was something by the inlet pipe. So yeah, it's just reject it, take it back and mention it to them, because then if it's something during the test procedure, then they can they can address that, or if it's something to do with their compressor, they can address that. But if they don't know, then they're just going to continue. So it might be that they just need to do some tests and work out what that is. Someone was asking about they lost their logbook during a move, and what was the best way to like restart. Should they restart at 0 or restart at their like rough dive counts, because they were thinking about going pro going forwards. And it is just yeah, I wouldn't restart at 1, because that's just, I think they had like 50 dives under their belt or something, they estimate, but they lost their logbook, so they didn't know the exact number. I wouldn't start back at 1. I'd go to like roughly whatever dive count you were. I think they were mainly worried because once you get to like dive master and instructor, you have to have this many dives to start the course. Of course, they're not going to look at every single individual dive that you've logged. They're just going to have a look at your logbook. Okay, you've logged a whole bunch of dives. Yeah, that should be fine. Most of the assessment is going to be in the water to make sure that you're a competent diver. Just because you have 50 or 60 dives under your belt, or at least written in your logbook, doesn't really mean anything. It's more about what you're like in the water. And that really is about it for this week. Oh yeah, we also saw World Ocean Day on Thursday, which is quite nice. So all sorts of activities around the world you'll have seen on like social media. Everyone sort of celebrating World Ocean Day, which is always good for us scuba divers. We get to flash around some of our pictures and videos. But otherwise, yeah, relatively quiet. Nothing terribly awful that I noticed happened. Didn't see any more dive boats capsizing or doing anything nasty. So yeah, relatively quiet news week, but there were still a few things. But yeah, that's it for another week. Thank you for listening, everybody. Just got a little outro about Scuba Pro again. But yeah, thanks for listening, and of course, safe diving. The Scuba Diver Magazine podcast is sponsored by Scuba Pro. For more information, head over to scubapro.johnsonoutdoors.com and find out more about their amazing scuba diving range.